Jesus led by example, and he demonstrated humility really well. He did it when he washed the feet of his disciples. Now, in that culture, washing a man's feet was like the most debasing thing you could do, right? It was right down there among all the remedial tasks. And, for Jesus to do this, for the disciples' spiritual leader, for the rightful king of Israel to be washing their feet, it was a repugnant notion. It was disgusting and repellent to them. They said, "No way are you going to wash my feet." But Jesus said, "You don't understand what I'm doing now, but you will. And if you don't let me wash your feet, then you can have no part with me." So enthusiastically, Peter, one of the disciples, responds, "Well, wash all of me." And Jesus responds, "That won't be necessary." Once the feet are washed, and he goes on and he says, "If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet." So it was a very menial job, but it served a purpose. It showed humility, it demonstrated humility, and this is something that's a theme that runs throughout the New Testament. That he who is lowly will be exalted, and he who is exalted will be brought low. And it says in some places that, for instance, Jesus prays this: "I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and prudent and have revealed them to babes." So, a lot of the people who thought themselves as being very smart and intellectual, they missed the point. But the people who were humble and meek, the lowly working classes, they got it. They had ears to listen, more so than these people who were so proud and up themselves, these smart arses. They didn't get it. But the people who were willing to listen got it. So don't be offended by Jesus. Blessed is he who is not offended by Jesus, because then you will listen and be receptive to his message, and his message is life. It is life. He embodied life. He is the persona of life. So open your ears to him and don't be repulsed for the sake of language, but listen to him. Do it in your heart today. Have a relationship with Christ, and I promise you, we'll talk about it someday on the other side. All the best. Basically, what I want to do with this video is just look at the humility of Jesus, okay? So, was Jesus a humble person? Well, first of all, I'll just go from the top of my head, right? What do I know about Jesus? Well, Jesus was a teacher. He was someone with a unique insight into the person of God. He had a unique relationship with God, and that he and God were one in a spiritual way. They were connected. Man and God, one, in a way that had never really been demonstrated before. It had never been conveyed to the world before. So Jesus had this monumental task of conveying the true nature of God through his person. And this is what he did. He gathered disciples and he taught them the truths that he had learned. And he never spoke of his own accord. He never thought to himself, "Well, I'm the rightful king of Israel and also, let's indulge in this. Let's quench some desires, some insatiable appetites, and la da 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 da." No, he never went down the materialistic and shallow route of human beings. And this is part of his commandments. Jesus taught us to be more than mere animals following mere animalistic instinct with regards to showing affection to those only who show affection to us. And these animalistic qualities, for instance, caring for your children because they are your own. Jesus asked us to go further than that. He said to show love and respect to enemies and to the children of other people, and not just those of the same tribe. For instance, there's the parable of the Good Samaritan. The Samaritans and the Jews, there was a lot of sectarianism there. They didn't get on. And then So Jesus came out with this parable which taught that we should treat all people as neighbours and be good to them, because in the parable of the Good Samaritan, a Samaritan helps a Jew, get the medical treatment that they need because, no one else was doing it. He did it. So, yes, I would say that Jesus came to teach us about love, and he used his position as the rightful king of Israel to really manifest humility. He was humility personified in a sense, and that God is humble. God is love. God humbles himself. It says in Scripture to be with us, to dwell with us on earth. Obviously, God omnipotent, omnipresent, all powerful, humbling himself. Let's just look at some scripture right now. In Philippians 2, verses 5 to 8, because we need to grant the narrative, right? If we're going to go to the source material, and if we want to get a true depiction of what Jesus was all about, as is revealed in the scriptures, we need to engage with the material. Okay, so Philippians 2, it says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross." So Jesus had the form of God. He was a spiritual being. From his baptism, he was born again into this unique relationship with God where they were one in essence. They were of the same spirit. You know what I mean? But he humbled himself, and he had a mission to fulfill, and his life was this great lesson in humility, even to the point of death. And we all know the death that Jesus died. He died on the cross, didn't he? Now, there came a point where he was, the Roman soldiers came to seize Jesus, and there was a bit of a scuffle, and Jesus says, "Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to the Father, to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the scriptures be fulfilled, that it must happen thus?" So Jesus had authority and power, right? He was a teacher, and so he taught. But we have to look at the quality of his message and not be repulsed by authoritarian language. Not that Jesus was over the top with that. Jesus was quite cool in a way. He's like, "Say, if you don't like me, mate, when you go, I don't want anything to do with it. If you don't like me, that's cool, man. You can work it out. But those who hear my message and respond to it, then these are the ones I'm talking to. These are the people I want to deal with." Because ultimately, if you are repulsed by Jesus' message, I think you are a repulsive person. And that might sound like a horrible thing to say, but once you actually know who Jesus is, it will make a lot of sense. And I bid you to stick around, because I know that language can be off-putting. It's like saying, "Oh, so it's one way or the highway." Not necessarily. I don't necessarily believe you need to be a Christian to manifest the Spirit of God in a way. Let me rephrase it. I don't think you need to intellectually acknowledge that you're a Christian, okay? Because I believe that you are doing Christianity when you manifest the fruits of the Spirit, which are love and patience and self-control and all that, right? But you don't need to say you're a Christian. You don't need to go to church on Sunday and do all the rituals of Christianity. I mean, I believe that you can be a good Christian and be an atheist and be a good Christian and be a Muslim and all the rest of it, so long as you're not someone who is utterly repulsed by the notion of God and love and all those qualities of the Spirit, right? That's what I'm saying. So let's keep going, right? Let's keep going. What do we got here? Passover. Yeah, I mean, if we go to the Garden of Gethsemane, am I saying that right? There comes a point where Jesus leads his disciples into the Garden of Gethsemane with him, and then he goes a little further and he falls on his face and he prays, "Oh my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." You see, Jesus did the will of the Father. He wasn't some boastful, proud megalomaniac. He didn't do things of his own accord, but he decided to obey his Father, who is love, who had this mission for him. And I know on a materialistic scale, looking at it from the eyes of the world, a man died on a cross and it was a brutal death, and oh, that's heinous, right? But from the bird's eye view, from the God's eye view, right? From the transcendent side of things, Jesus never died. Jesus never died. Well, if you want to get into theological debate, yeah, okay, he died, but the death that he died wasn't absolute, wasn't this horrible end. And Jesus is alive today. If we're granting the narrative, right, if we're going to follow the narrative here and understand who Jesus is according to Scripture, he didn't die completely, utterly destroyed, no. But he now reigns, he now rules with God, and this invitation is extended to us to be co-heirs in this, I know the language might sound quite archaic, when we refer to kingdoms and kings and, all these worldly terms, but it's greater than all that. This is just language that we use to make sense of it, right? So Jesus says, "You are my friends if you do what I command," in John 15:14. But let's have a look, let's have a look at things here. What else does he say? Jesus says in John 8:28-30, "When you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself, but as the Father taught me, I speak these things, and he who sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I always do the things that please him." And he spoke these words and many believed. So again, that just goes to show that, Jesus isn't someone who's speaking of his own accord and doing this, that, and the next thing as he judges in his own human mind what works. No, he's taking insight and inspiration from the Spirit, right? And again, very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing of himself. He can only do what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. Okay? "For I do not speak on my own, but the Father who sent me commanded me to say all that I have spoken." Right? So when Jesus says, "You are my friends if you do what I command," we need to pay attention to what exactly he is commanding. We need to judge the quality of the commandments. We can't just say, "Oh, that's a terrible thing to say." You don't know what his commandments are. That's my response to my partner when she's repulsed by this. "Oh, do what I command and you'll be my friends." "Oh, I don't like the sound of that." I'm like, women...
Yeah, I said, bitch. Then I laid it out.
But you said bitch, though.
Do you look at the commandments? Did you see what he's asking of people? Is it so repulsive? Is it? Oh, you don't know? Well, let's have a look, right? Let's have a look. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." So that's the criteria that Jesus puts out to be his disciple, to recognise that you are a disciple of Jesus. You will demonstrate love. You will have love for one another. Is that so terrible? I do not think so. Right, let's look again. Here we go. In John 14, Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Right? That's what he's saying. If you love me, keep my commandments. Jesus isn't saying, oh, love me, grr, you better do this, grr, and do that. He's saying, if you love me, keep my commandments. Do what I say, because what I say is for your benefit, it's for your spiritual evolution, it's for your growth as what it is you are, ultimately, you know? A human with a capital H, you know? I want you to achieve spiritual maturity. If you love me, keep my commandments. And ultimately, those commandments, as we've seen and as we will see, are to love, right? And so he says again, he who has my commandments and keeps them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. In John 17, there's a prayer Jesus prays that we will all be one, just as he is one with God. And part of all that is sharing a harmony of love and demonstrating love, you know, because it shows that we're all the same spirit. And that's what Jesus, as a teacher, is teaching his disciples. So when he says, you know, if you love me, keep my commandments, he's looking, you know, to ascertain the confidence that his disciples have in him, and to, you know, let them know the nature of the relationship, you know, and the relationship with God and what it's all about. Okay. Okay. He says in the end of John 14 here, I will no longer talk much with you, for the ruler of this world is coming, and he has nothing in me. But that the world may know that I love the Father, and as the Father gave me commandment, so I do. Arise, let us go from here. So, you know, Jesus is just showing that, you know, he has obedience, you know, and he prays that we'll listen to him, you know, because it keeps us on the right track. So let's talk a little more about humility. In Matthew 23 verse 12 it says, for those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And I think that's a notion we actually all agree with, right? When we see someone blowing their own trumpet, and we'll come to the parable that deals with that. When we see people tooting their own horn, we're repulsed by it, aren't we? We think to ourselves, oh, that guy's so far up his own arse, isn't he? Right? And we shouldn't think that of Jesus just because he's the one giving that insight, just because he's the rightful king and he is a spiritual leader, if we're granting the narrative. And so it's his place to teach these things, and we shouldn't look at that authority and be repulsed by it. Oh, I don't like Jesus, man. He makes statements, and I just don't like that. I don't like the way he teaches as a teacher. It's like, no, that's his job, that's his position, and he's quite humble and meek about it. And I'm sure I don't need to sit here and explain this to you. In accordance with my faith, I believe he is a genuine person who is alive and well, and if you practice a little humility and seek to have a relationship with him, open up to him, talk to him in prayer, just talk to him, that there will be a personal revelation in your life. I believe that. I have to believe that that's what being a Christian is all about. And I've experienced it, you know, and I've shared that with you, and I think that you would benefit from that. You don't need to listen to me explain this, but I think it helps to see another human being, you know, talk about it, right? And this might open you up more to Jesus, because you might have been thinking the same way that my partner's been thinking, you know, repulsed by words like commandment and kingliness and all this, because the language goes against the grain for you, because you're your own individual, you know, strong, independent black woman that you are. But what I'm saying is, you know, you don't need no man, right? But you can still pray to overcome your biology. You can. You don't need to be a man or a woman. You can be more. You can be a spirit, a mature spirit, if you just hearken, if you just listen, okay? Man, I'm losing you, I'm losing you. Okay, so what else do we have here? Okay. So what were the two greatest commandments then? Okay, Jesus says, if you listen to my commandments, you're my friends. Okay, some people find that repulsive. What were the two greatest commandments that Jesus referred to? Jesus said to him, in response to the question, what is the great commandment? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbour as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. In another place, in Matthew 12:49 to 50, and in Matthew 7, verse 12, you get the same kind of gist. He says, whatever you want men to do to you, do to them also, for this is the law and the prophets. And the law and the prophets is just a way to refer to the Hebrew scriptures, right? And in Matthew 12:49 to 50, he says, look, my family, those who I would call my brothers and sisters, those are the people that do the will of God, and God is love, and basically it's the people who demonstrate the fruits of that spirit that is God. Okay. And another thing about Jesus is that he asks us to go beyond, where's the camera? He asks us to go beyond the pettiness of mere humanity with a small h. He asks us to aspire to humanity with a capital H. What am I talking about? Well, he goes through some old ideals, right? You've heard it said, love your neighbour and hate your enemy, but I say to you, be good to those who spitefully use you, etc. You know? So what's he saying there? Because a lot of people look at that and they think to themselves, well, I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea of being good to people who are bad to me. Well then, you're a human with a small h. Basically, Jesus is saying to you, look, you can be more, you can aspire to be more, you can achieve spiritual maturity and demonstrate qualities that show transcendence. And that's what that's all about. Because chimpanzees, animals, have basic instincts to look after their own young. Jesus is saying, don't just look after your own young, think about the young of others, think about the young of your enemies, think about your enemies. Demonstrate this godliness, this quality that the God the Father has. For his sun shines on the righteous and the unrighteous, his rains pour on the just and the unjust. Be perfect, therefore, as your Father in heaven is perfect. If you want to roam around like a grunting, nasty little chimpanzee, throwing your dung at people you don't like, and just living off of, really base and, sensual instincts and appetites and seeking to satisfy those, just animalistic cravings, then you go ahead. Jesus is saying to you, then, that you've got some other business to go about. But if you love me, if you love the God I'm here to represent and show in my person, and you want to be a part of that, then you can be, and you ought to be, because that's your destiny. He's saying, demonstrate these qualities that are higher. Demonstrate these qualities that are higher. I really don't have a lot of room to pace around in here. It's like a little square box room, but yeah, I think I got that. I like to pace. That's what I do. I pace over here and a pace over here. Okay, that's me done. Have a nice day. Cheers.